When your partner completely withdraws, refuses to engage in any real meaningful conversation. Stonewalling. It's one of the most damaging behaviors in a relationship. In fact, relationship expert John Gottman identified it as one of the top predictors of divorce. And if you're trying to get a stonewalling partner to open up, your natural instincts might actually be making things worse. When you're faced with a partner who shuts down, the knee-jerk reaction is often to push harder, to try to force them to open up. Maybe angrily demanding that they talk to us, issuing ultimatums, or withdrawing ourselves in a kind of a tit-for-tat response. I understand why you'd have those reactions. However, they only really make it worse. By lashing out or pulling away, we're essentially confirming our partner's fear that it's not really safe to open up. Our actions actually then add to their overwhelming burden that they're feeling and the bitterness that drove them to stonewall in the first place. So if you do really want to break through to a stonewalling partner, then you have to do the opposite of what feels natural, and that's going to be hard to do. Ultimately, the key is to help them feel emotionally safe, even if that means holding back on your own frustration in that moment. But before we dig into that, let's dig into why your partner is stonewalling in the first place. So understanding the root causes behind stonewalling is key if you really want to break through to your partner. So as frustrating as it is to be shut out, we have to recognize that our partner is shutting down for a reason. They're not doing it for no reason. And more often than not, it stems from feeling emotionally unsafe in the relationship. So this means that they feel unable to express their emotions in the way that they see fit. Ultimately, what this means is that they feel unsafe in expressing how they're feeling. And oftentimes this is because in the past when they've tried to express their feelings, it's turned into a huge fight. Or maybe further in the past, they grew up in a family where showing emotion wasn't acceptable, or speaking up and speaking your feelings wasn't acceptable. Whatever the case may be, it feels to them opening up right now feels like too big of a risk. They're afraid of being judged, rejected, or sparking another argument. Stonewalling can also happen when a partner feels completely overwhelmed. So perhaps the issues in the relationship maybe seem so big and numerous that they don't even know where to start. They don't even know how to begin to express their feelings. They feel like they're standing at the bottom of a mountain and, told to start climbing up to the top. The task of opening up feels so daunting to them that shutting down feels like the only way that they can cope with it. And in some cases, stonewalling can even be a sign of held back bitterness or resentment. If your partner's been silently stewing over unresolved problems and challenges in the relationship, then they may stonewall as a kind of a subconscious passive-aggressive way to punish the other partner or to regain a sense of control for themselves. So if your partner is stonewalling, it can feel like a natural instinct to blame their character and think that this is some embedded, ingrained trait that they have within themselves. However, this disregards the impact that the environment has on your partner, whether it's the environment of your relationship, or maybe it's even the environment of work. Essentially, if your partner doesn't feel like they're in an emotionally safe environment, then they're going to struggle to open up. And oftentimes we can feel like we're powerless against it. However, we have a massive impact on the environment of the relationship. And this is where we can take control and take the responsibility to help our partner to open up and express their feelings. But here's the thing, no matter what the reason is behind the stonewalling, the way we typically react to it tends to make matters worse. So when our partner withdraws, our first instinct is usually to chase after them, to push them to open up. Maybe to get angry or to issue a demand or an ultimatum. You say, if you don't open up, then I'm leaving, or whatever it is. We can unleash all of our pent-up frustrations. Or alternatively, we might withdraw too, meeting their distance with more distance as a kind of a tit-for-tat response. But these kind of responses backfire massively because it confirms the stonewaller's belief that it's not safe to engage. It shows them that communication is not able to happen right now. By lashing out or pulling away, we're sending the message that their feelings aren't valid or important to us. We're not willing to hear them out. So that actually adds to their sense of emotional overwhelm. If you think about it, being angrily confronted with a backlog of issues and complaints would be enough to make anyone want to retreat into their shell. So if they're feeling resentment within themselves, and that's fueling the stonewalling, then fear of your harsh reaction will only give them more to feel angry and bitter about. So as difficult as it is, we need to manage our own knee-jerk responses and focus on creating the safety and stability for our partner to speak. That means approaching them with empathy, even when empathy can feel like the last thing that we feel like giving in that moment. It's important to recognize the stonewalling for what it is, which is not a personal attack on you, but a defense mechanism rooted in pain. So during this moment, looking past your own hurt for a moment to consider their perspective, it completely changes the interaction around. So instead of, how dare you stonewall me? How dare you not speak to me? Then it can become a question of, hey, like, I feel like you are feeling unsafe to say something right now. Or feels like maybe you don't feel confident in speaking your feelings because you think you're going to get a negative reaction from me. It's important to take in the context of the environment around the situation and how that's having an impact on their stonewalling. And that shift in mindset is the first step to dismantling the wall between you both. But you might be thinking, how does that look in practice? How do you create a safe space for your stonewalling partner to finally open up? If they're not speaking, it's going to be very difficult to do that, right? It starts with setting the right environment. So both physically and emotionally, one really powerful first step to break through to your partner is through physical touch. So I'm not talking about sexual touch. I'm just talking about simple, like hand on the shoulder or hug or just sitting closely to your partner. This physical touch actually releases oxytocin in the brain, which is sometimes called the cuddle hormone, because it promotes bonding and reduces stress. So by simply initiating affectionate touch, you're sending a physiological message of safety and connection. So this is the perfect first step to ease your partner into feeling safe, into expressing their feelings. And it's also really crucial to keep your emotions in check. So I know it's easier said than done, especially when you're feeling hurt, but remember, your partner is already feeling really overwhelmed. So if your emotions are dysregulated and you're coming at them with an angry or accusatory tone, it's kind of like throwing gasoline on the fire. So it's important to take some deep breaths and focus on maintaining a calm, measured demeanor. Start to approach the conversation with empathy and understanding that this situation right now is not a personal attack on you. It's actually your partner expressing themselves in a way that they see fit. Understanding that it's a matter of approaching the conversation with it in mind that your partner's stonewalling is an expression of the pain that they're feeling. And by approaching the conversation in this way, it's going to come across in the way that you speak, being able to help them feel like they're in a judgment-free environment. Another really useful strategy is to start using open-ended questions. So rather than accusatory tones saying, why won't you talk to me? Or if you don't talk to me, then I'm out of here. What's your problem? Try something more inviting like, hey, I've noticed that maybe you don't feel as comfortable talking to me anymore because of some of the ways that maybe I've spoken to you in the past, or maybe it's something else. Tell me what's on your mind. So these open-ended questions help to create the space for them to share without feeling pressured. It gives them the option to open up if they want to, but also acknowledges that they don't have to if they don't want to. There's a powerful technique which they use in therapy called catharsis and affect labeling. So catharsis is allowing the release of strong emotions, while affect labeling involves putting names on those emotions. And you can help to facilitate this process of helping your partner understand their emotions by helping to prompt the labels of what your partner might be feeling, and then invite them to say yes or no. So for example, you might say, hey, I imagine that you're feeling pretty overwhelmed right now, or it seems like, there's a lot of hurt happening at the moment. And if your guess is off base, then they're going to likely jump in and set the record straight. And if you're on the right track, then naming that emotion can actually be incredibly validating for them. It shows them that their feelings are actually understandable, and that helps them to ease them to open up, to feel safe, to understand that whatever they're feeling can be expressed and can be expressed in a safe environment. And remember, throughout all of this, it's important to remember that you are not doing this in one conversation. This is something that needs to be shown over time. If your partner is struggling to express themselves, they're not just going to be able to do it in one conversation. The stonewalling is not going to turn around just overnight, just because you asked a few open-ended questions or you guessed their feelings correctly. Trust is built emotionally, slowly through many small interactions over time. You have to be willing to prioritize effectiveness over efficiency. There's no rush to do this. So in other words, forget about trying to have one perfect conversation that fixes all of your problems, and instead focus on showing up with patience and empathy day after day, week after week. Every single time you respond to their withdrawal with a calm demeanor, showing them without words, with your actions, that they're able to express themselves and be able to work through whatever reason they are stonewalling. So how does this look in practice? Let's say your partner has been coming home from work and grabbing a glass of wine and just staring at the TV. And when you ask them, hey, what's wrong? They say, nothing. And then they go to bed. Instead of blowing up at them for ignoring you or not telling you what they're feeling, you could sit down next to them, put a hand on their leg and say, hey, seems work's been pretty brutal lately. I just want to let you know that if you do feel overwhelmed or anything like that, you want to talk about it, then I'm here for you. And then you can leave that door open for your partner to express themselves however they're feeling. So this is a way of not ignoring the issue, but you're not forcing them to engage if they're not ready. Essentially, all you're doing is making it clear to your partner that you're available and that you care, and there's no pressure. And over time, that message is going to sink in, even if you don't get any sort of response at first. As you consistently respond to stonewalling with patience and empathy, then your partner will start to internalize that it is safe to open up to you, and those walls will start to come down brick by brick. But it's a process that requires effort on your part in order to help them ease through it. You know, one of my members actually had trouble with his partner who would shut down completely every time he tried to start a conversation. She would literally walk out of the room and lock herself in the bedroom anytime that she felt like there was going to be a conflict happening. Because previously, his first impulse was to start shouting through the door. But once he learned how to handle his own emotions and also to help empathize with why she was stonewalling, he developed the ability to give her the space, but also make it clear that he was there for it if she wanted. And over time, she started to express her feelings. And now, fast forward 6 months, the stonewalling has completely disappeared, and they're actually having healthy, open conversations between them because they both feel emotionally safe to be able to express themselves without any negative consequences. And most importantly, his partner doesn't have to stonewall anymore because she knows she has a safe place with her husband to be able to process her emotions at her own pace. And if you want a step-by-step system to learn how to repair your relationship and turn it around, then I invite you to join me on my free relationship bootcamp, which I'll give you the strategies and tools to turn your relationship around. If you want to join us, then click on the link in the description down below to get started today. So your gentleness and flexibility in the face of a stonewalling partner is incredibly powerful. It doesn't mean that you're being a doormat or letting them off the hook. It means that you're strong enough to self-regulate your own emotions for the sake of the relationship. And make no mistake, this takes strength and self-control in order to keep showing up with empathy when you're feeling ignored or pushed away. So it's important to make sure you're taking the time to recharge your own batteries and process your emotions before you're entering conversations. And with patience, consistency, the walls will start to crumble. Remember, slow and steady wins the race. It's like the tortoise and the hare. And if you do want a deeper dive into creating safety in your relationship, I'll leave you with this video right here. I'll see you over there.